October 12, 2022, 3 minutes before the market closed. In a dimly lit server room humming with the sound of frantic cooling fans, a single terminal flashed an unprecedented alert. It wasn't a standard cyber attack. It was a funding anomaly. A massive, untraceable transfer routed through an obscure shell corporation registered in the Cayman Islands. Who was moving this much untraceable capital, and why were they targeting the most vulnerable information pipelines across 3 continents simultaneously? The network security expert watching the screen felt a cold dread creep up his spine, because what he was seeing wasn't just market manipulation, it was the financial blueprint for chaos. It looked like the digital infrastructure of democracy was being bought, piece by piece. This isn't about lone trolls in basements fueled by passion. This is about precision. It's about billions. We thought we understood the architecture of modern disinformation, the partisan rallies, the angry tweets, the viral memes. We were wrong. The real power broker wasn't broadcasting from a soapbox. They were sitting in an office, signing papers that converted dark money into global noise. The shocking truth we began to uncover was that the entire landscape of what we believed to be organic outrage was in fact being meticulously cultivated, sown, and harvested by financiers operating in the shadows of international law. How do you trace a river of cash when it flows through 1,000 legally clean tributaries? The investigation began not with code but with an old-fashioned paper trail, brittle documents unearthed from a defunct private bank in Zurich, smelling faintly of mildew and old secret. The initial lead pointed toward a holding company called Ethelred Solutions, a name that sounded more like a medieval tapestry than a global financial instrument. Ethelred had no discernible product, no public listings, just a P.O. box and a single signatory listed on incorporation papers from 2016. The signatory, a man named Elias Thorne, vanished from public record the very day Ethelred was officially registered. It was as if someone had deliberately created a financial ghost. The urgency intensified when we cross-referenced Ethelred's minimal known transactions with spikes in coordinated misinformation campaigns. We found a chilling synchronicity. Every time Ethelred moved a substantial sum, always fractions just below regulatory reporting thresholds, a highly specific narrative would suddenly dominate social media feeds in key swing districts across Europe and North America. It was always the same pattern. Sow distrust in established institutions, amplify internal division, and quietly undermine scientific consensus. The journey next took us deep into the digital trenches, past the surface-level social media platforms, into the often ignored world of programmatic advertising and obscure content recommendation engines. These engines are the invisible delivery mechanism for modern propaganda, feeding targeted narratives directly into the feeds of susceptible audiences. Think of it as automated psychological warfare running 24/7, optimized by complex algorithms designed to maximize emotional resonance, not truth. The low hum of a server farm, a constant backdrop to this hidden industry, seemed to pulse with the hidden instructions being relayed globally. We uncovered the first concrete link in Tallinn, Estonia, a small digital marketing firm that, on paper, specialized in optimizing ad placement for boutique furniture makers. Except their server logs told a different story. They were running massive, high-frequency ad buys, but the destination URLs were cloaked using complex redirection chains that eventually resolved to hyper-partisan, low-credibility news sites. The invoice for these services, dated 2 years prior, listed the payer as Ethelred Solutions. The furniture story was the camouflage. The misinformation was the product. The stakes were suddenly terrifyingly high. This wasn't about political donations anymore. This was about manufacturing consent on an industrial scale. We needed to understand who was backing Thorne's ghost corporation. The shell game continued, leading us to Cyprus, a jurisdiction renowned for its opacity. Here, Ethelred's funds were sliced again and deposited into a network of trusts designed to shield the ultimate beneficiary. It was a labyrinth built by lawyers specializing in deliberate obscurity. The sound of rapid keyboard entry echoed in the quiet investigation room as analysts tried to penetrate the layers of digital obfuscation. Then came the breakthrough, stumbled upon by tracking a single anomalous expenditure, a luxury private jet charter from London to Riyadh, paid for by one of the Cypriot trusts, just weeks before a major international environmental summit. The passenger manifest was sealed, but the flight path itself was unusual, a short stopover in a neutral country before proceeding to the Middle East. That stopover, Luxembourg, offered a momentary window. A financial regulator there, discreetly approached, confirmed that the jet was owned by a holding company linked to the Al Jamil Group, a massive diversified energy conglomerate based primarily in the Gulf states. The Al Jamil Group, they weren't known for political meddling, they were known for oil, gas, and infrastructure. So why were they paying for the meticulous poisoning of Western political discourse? The initial narrative gap, the why, began to narrow, but the complexity remained daunting. It wasn't a direct political agenda, it was an economic imperative. The groups being targeted by the disinformation campaigns were precisely those advocating for rapid transitions away from fossil fuels. The investment wasn't in promoting a candidate, it was in slowing down regulatory change. Every debate sown, every scientific consensus questioned, every delay in green energy legislation translated directly into billions of dollars of retained asset value for the Al Jamil Group. The funding formula became chillingly clear. They weren't buying elections, they were buying time. Every click, every angry share, every moment of societal division was a measurable return on investment in energy security, calculated in quarterly earnings reports. We tracked the money back, one final, critical step. The Al Jamil Group didn't directly fund Aethelred. They paid a management consultancy firm based in Singapore, known only as the Apex Collective. The Apex Collective specialized in geopolitical risk mitigation. This firm acted as the operational layer, transforming the Al Jamil Group's economic mandate into actionable digital warfare. When we finally accessed residual data from a compromised Apex server, a faint digital whisper lingering after a security purge, we saw the operational playbook. It detailed the precise budget allocation for sowing discord in specific sectors: climate science funding, electoral integrity, and public health infrastructure. The documents were cold, analytical, devoid of ideology. They treated social fracture as a controllable variable, a lever to be pulled for maximizing long-term commodity extraction.
The constant, low-level static of online conflict was not an accident of the digital age, it was a meticulously financed commodity, actively managed. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place when we revisited Elias Thorne, the ghost signatory of Ethelred. He hadn't vanished, he had been restructured. Thorne was now a senior VP at the Apex Collective in Singapore, overseeing special projects. He wasn't the mastermind, he was the architect of the financial plumbing, the man who built the pipes through which the dark money flowed, ensuring that no single transaction could ever lead back to the ultimate source. The system was designed not just to hide the money but to make the discovery of the money functionally irrelevant to prosecution, because the legal trail dissolved into an infinite series of registered entities. The moment of realization was stark. The threat wasn't a foreign power attempting to conquer us. It was a domestic, or at least commercially driven entity leveraging our own societal fractures for profit. The urgency felt back in that server room on October 12th was justified. The data transfer wasn't an attack on the markets. It was the final disbursement to the regional contractors who would execute the next year's campaign of manufactured uncertainty. The digital alarm bells were ringing, not against an external enemy, but against a highly capitalized, self-interested mechanism designed to keep the world perpetually distracted, perpetually divided, and perpetually reliant on the very resources their funding was designed to protect. The question that lingers now isn't who they are, we found them, but how many other sectors are already being funded by similar invisible capital, waiting for the next signal to start the noise.